Hey everyone, me Kevin here. I have turned the entire new stimulus proposal into a flowchart, and we are going to go through all of it right now. I'm going to talk to you about all of the new provisions in the new HEROES Act. This is a proposal from the Democrats, but this is coming from the high-level Democrats. Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer. We're expecting this to be negotiated with the White House via Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows. Once it gets negotiated through them and the White House, then we expect the House to pass it, then the Senate to pass it, and Trump to sign this. So we could see these stimulus checks and unemployment benefits and all of these new features I'm about to talk about within the next few weeks prior to the election. Let's get right into this because this is exciting. This is the detailed version. So if you saw my earlier overview video, this is now the detailed version. I've gone through the entire package and I've put almost everything in this flowchart. Here it is. Okay, here's the flowchart. First, this package is going to be $2.2 trillion. Now, obviously, that's subject to the negotiations with Republicans. One of the things that I think will be hotly negotiated is something that was actually buried at the bottom of one of the pages, the elimination of the state and local tax deduction cap. That's generally very beneficial for high income tax states like California and New York, or high property tax states like Texas. Republicans generally are not too fond of this, and they call this a Democratic wish list item. So hopefully they don't think that about the rest of the package, but expect this to be a sore topic for Republicans. Unemployment, $600 per week. That's up from the $300 FEMA boost that we currently have, and that's pretty much expired. This boost would continue through January 31st, though if you get unemployment starting around January 31st of 2021, that should say 2021, there we go, then you would actually get the boost through March 31st. So they call that a soft transition. This unemployment pay is taxable, but it won't affect your income for benefit calculations. So if you're on food stamps or you're on Section 8, they won't rob you of those benefits because you're receiving the $600 per week. This would start on September 6th. So the FEMA unemployment benefits went from the week ending August 1st, which was something like July 25th to July 26th, all the way through about the first week of September. This is trying to pick up there, even though there might be a slight hole depending on your state. Some states haven't even fully paid out yet. This would include self-employed and gig workers, so Uber, Lyft, and so on. It also extends short-term compensation. So if you're partially laid off, the STC program will continue to provide benefits. You are eligible also for unemployment now, well, via this proposal if this gets passed, if you are unable to work due to a family member getting COVID and you're the caregiver for that person. Also, if you're laid off or you lose work, you get to continue your health insurance, and there will be a program through the exchanges for that. Stimulus. A $1,200 stimulus check, same income thresholds as last time, except all dependents, adults and college students, will be eligible for the $500 dependent bonus. There is nothing about a second stimulus check, or should I say a third one, in this package. So you would be getting this as a second check, but there wouldn't necessarily be a third check, which is something that we saw in the Problem Solvers Caucus proposal bill. So that is not in there. Also, the original HEROES Act had $1,200 going to dependents. That is not in here either. Additionally, the original HEROES Act did have that people with taxpayer identification numbers would receive a stimulus check, not just a social. This is another way of saying undocumented workers. Some people say illegal workers. But basically, if you're undocumented and you have a TIN, which allows you to pay income taxes, you would be eligible under this proposal. This is expected to be a hot button issue with Republicans. Remember, Democrats are proposing this in talks with the White House. This is also, they're exempting the stimulus checks from any kind of reduction due to bankruptcy, child support, or any kind of bank garnishments. So if you owe child support and you're back on your child support, you will still get your stimulus check. Now, this will also, as usual, sort of like the last one, be based on your 2018/19 tax return, or whatever information you have on file with Social Security, survivors, disability, SSI, railroad retirement, or the VA. There is no requirement to repay the stimulus money if your 2020 income is higher or you otherwise don't qualify in 2020. For the PPP, and we're going to get into housing and some other really neat things here in a moment. We're going deep on this one now. For the PPP, 10% of the remaining and any future money will go to individuals or smaller businesses for self-employed individuals, sole proprietors, or businesses like S corporations or LLCs with 10 or fewer employees. These will be loans that will be limited to under $250,000. And I looked this up. This is low to moderate income areas, LMI. But not only that, but it also includes minority areas. So they're specifically trying to make sure some PPP money is earmarked for minority communities, which may have been left out in the first rounds. 30% to nonprofits, 50% is going to a second dip to a PPP, but only if you have less than 200 employees and your revenue's gone down 25% year over year. SNAP program is getting $10 billion with flexibility, including the ability to purchase hot food now. So like ready-to-eat food. The women, infants, and children is getting $400 million. Emergency food assistance program, food banks are getting $450 million. Nutrition assistance, $1.3 billion to Puerto Rico, $14 million to the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and $9.1 million to the American Samoa. Also, there will be an agricultural quarantine benefit of $350 million, and that's to keep pests and diseases from America. On food assistance, I'm not going to read all of this because we'll be here all night, so you can pause on this, but SNAP is getting more funding. One thing I want to point out is that SNAP will now include hot purchases, so like ready-to-eat food will be eligible. But you could look here for WIC or other food benefit programs. Keep in mind that Donald Trump's executive order is still in effect that allows you to get food through the end of the year. Go to the description all the way at the bottom. You'll see a link to a map where you can get free food through the end of the year if you are 18 or younger, or you have children who are 18 or younger. Through the end of the year, you can get that food. There's a link for a map down below, a phone number that you could text, or a phone number that you can call. You'll see that down below. Rural aid, there's actually $309 million going to rural renter assistance and additional support for electricity co-ops. Now, this is a big one right here. Housing. $21 billion for homeowners struggling with mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, utilities, or other housing-related costs. This is really interesting because other housing-related costs could, in theory, be, well, my roof's leaking and I don't got money to fix it, or my plumbing's broken. This is very, very broad, so we'll have to see exactly what they're trying to earmark this for, but pay attention to this. If you are a homeowner and you're having trouble, this bill is good for you. And this goes way beyond forbearance because other housing-related costs, I mean, that's anything to keep a roof over your head. Your electricity panel's broken, your kitchen's broken, your dishwasher's broken. Those are other housing-related costs. Now, we'll see exactly what that includes, but this is very, very broad. And $21 billion is actually a very good number, especially since they're separating out rental assistance. Speaking of rental assistance, tenant-based rental assistance. So there are actually a few parts for this. $4 billion are going to public housing agencies. You might see this as PHAs. And this is basically to keep families stably housed. I misspelled that. New temporary vouchers for eviction prevention. So basically, they would create these housing agencies would create some kind of voucher program to prevent people from going homeless, basically getting evicted. Something to keep an eye on, tenant-based rental assistance. It's getting quite a bit of money. And then there will actually be, in addition to these vouchers, there will be $5 billion of straight-up grant money if you are at risk of homelessness or you're already homeless. Then, this is the big one, $50 billion to help low-income renters avoid eviction, along with some of these other benefits here. $50 billion. As a country, we're only about $21 billion behind in rent right now, which is a lot. I shouldn't say only, I mean like, compared to 50 billion, we're 21 billion behind in rent. 50 billion is like, okay, that should cover us until January. So that's very, very, very good. The projects, so housing projects, sometimes that people think that's a derogatory word. It refers to housing projects. Government housing projects are receiving $750 million. And then they have special earmarks here for $500 million for affordable housing for seniors, $45 million for affordable housing for those disabled. We've also got protecting renters and homeowners from evictions and foreclosures basically improving forbearance and specifying that loan modifications and loss mitigations must be available to those who can't afford a lump sum repayment. So simply put, some loans will require that you make your payment at the end of your forbearance period, and this is requiring that there be loan modification options offered. Now remember, if you have a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or FHA loan, you could generally postpone your payments through to the end of the loan. So that way you only really have to repay the money when you refinance, you sell, or the loan comes due, which is great. Then we've got $238 billion for state relief, $179 for local relief, $9.5 billion for tribal relief, $9.5 for territories, $1 billion for community development. The FDA is getting $1.5 million. Listen to this one. This is weird. $1.5 million for one or more advisory committee meetings. Dude, I want to go to a $1.5 million meeting. Some of this stuff in here does make me scratch my head. I will tell you that, and I'll show you some more of those things. And I'm not going to read all of these things. You can kind of pause on some of these things. Like, I don't know why the Patent and Trademark Office is getting $95 million, but they are. The National Oceanic, I don't know, whatever. NOAA, the people who track the hurricanes, okay? They're getting $392 million. The prisons are getting $620 million. The Violence Against Women Act, $375 million. Second chance grants, so free money for ex-prisoners, $250 million is in here. Some of these things are gonna push buttons with Republicans. Like some of these specific line items here, the Republicans are gonna freak out over. Pandemic Justice Response Act, $600 million, eliminating COVID in jails. Juvenile Justice, $100 million. National Science Foundation, I guess I can't spell today. I read the thing, and as I was writing it, as I'm reading it, I'm writing it. So I've only had this for about 2.5 hours now, and I'm not reading off an article. I was reading straight from the bill. It's a lot of work. But anyway, $2.9 billion for the National Science Foundation to research coronavirus. $100 million for the Legal Services Corporation. This is like a nonprofit that helps people with legal advice. Election security, $3.6 billion. $1 billion for technology for basically the government. Then we've got FEMA is getting $1.3 billion for COVID, which that almost seems like very low, given that FEMA just got robbed of like $44 billion via the unemployment, program. And I'm not trying to say that wasn't money well spent. I mean, in all fairness, I think that was necessary. But I mean, that did come from the FEMA fund, and they're giving them 1.3 back. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, parks are getting money here. Fish and wildlife. Again, you can pause to see some of these. Hospitals in insular areas are getting $1 billion. Indian Health Services, $2.3 billion. Department of Labor is getting $3.7 billion. Health and Human Services, this is a huge one. Department of HHS, Health and Human Services, $249 billion for R&D, vaccines, therapeutics, and other COVID-related research. Health Resources Services Admin, $9.2 billion. The CDC, look at what the CDC is getting compared to the HHS. Wow. The CDC is getting $13.7 billion. National Institutes of Health, $4.7, substance abuses and mental health, $8.5 billion, pandemic preparedness and response, $21 billion, $125 billion for reimbursing and supporting contact tracing. You'd think they could create like a good app or something for $125 billion. A nursing strike team that can mobilize within 72 hours of 3 employees getting COVID in hospitals. Children and families, lots of grants here. $65.2 billion for social services for children, childcare stabilization grants, childcare and development block grants, lots of things. A little bit of money for Head Start here. Well, $1.7 billion. We're still talking billions here. Schools, $208 billion, $175 of that to elementary and secondary schools, $27 billion to post-secondary, $4 billion to governors, $2 billion for Indian education, $5 billion for elementary and secondary school emergency facilities, and then another $11.9 billion for higher education, like colleges. Capitol Police is getting $12 million bucks. Architect of the Capitol, this was an interesting one. Look at this. $181.5 million for bulk purchasing of face coverings and gloves. Dude, y'all need $181 million for that? Okay, I mean, I don't know who the architect of the Capitol is, but whoever the architect is, he's getting a lot of masks. Obviously, I'm assuming they're going to somehow distribute this to all like federal employees or something like that. But it was a weird title, and it's a weird amount for gloves and face coverings. Whatever. Global health, $3.5 billion. I could just hear Jerome Powell already. Crank up the print. I'm going to need two hands here. Whew. All right, $750 million for the World Food Program for the UN, USPS. So the post office is getting $15 billion here. The I think this is not the FFA. This is the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. I used to be a licensed drone pilot, and I had to get an FAA license to do that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, $50 million for masks, coverings, and gloves. I don't know why masks, gloves, and coverings are that expensive, but okay. $13.5 billion for relief to airports, and 25% of that is going to go to like the gift shops and the restaurants inside the airports. $32 billion in airline payroll bailouts. Amtrak is getting $2.4 billion. Somebody commented on my last video that they work for Amtrak, and they're like, yo, we need the money. I'm like, okay, good. Well, you're getting it. Hopefully, if this passes. If this doesn't pass, I quit. Broadband, $12 billion for Wi-Fi hotspot, student access libraries, $3 billion for emergency home connectivity, $200 million for telemedicine grants, $24 million for broadband mapping, defense health, $705 million for therapeutics and PPE. The military is getting $320 million in PPE. See, why is it that the military gets $320 million for PPE, which okay, good. But then you got, what was it here? The FAA gets $50 million for masks. I mean, it just proportionately, it just seems like the military would need more than that. If the FAA is getting that much, the control towers and that, feels like the military should be getting a lot more, but what am I speculating for? Stimulus. So this was weird. They had this weird line in here that said $359 million in payments to individuals. And so I put a question mark, some kind of tax credits. I don't know what that was. I have to come back to that. And I don't know if they accidentally meant to say billion and it was just like a tally of the stimulus checks and stuff. But then again, I don't think the stimulus checks are that expensive either. So this $359 million, I don't know what that is. $50 billion in grants to small businesses. Trying to get more details on what this is. Student loans, suspending of, okay, so here's some interesting stuff. Suspending of payments for federal student loans through September 30th, 2021, adding a 30-day transition period. But, okay, this, you might understand this better if you have one of these loans. And you could go to page 18 on the summary of this. But there's a note that says the secretary must make it so that borrowers with loans excluded from the CARES Act, like FFEL, institutionally held Perkins loans, and HHS student loans, be made whole as if the loans had been covered under the CARES Act. So I think this is like a fancy way of saying that basically the Secretary of the Department of Education is supposed to help cover some interest payments. I'm not 100% sure about that. I know that federal is now being deferred through September 30th, 2021. And I know that federal no interest shall accrue until September 30th, 2021. But if you have one of these loans, you really ought to do some more research on those two things here. See, and then it actually even says this. Secretary to pay interest due on FFEL, Perkins, and HHS loans on a monthly basis. Yeah, again, page 18. I'll link specifically, I'll just put just page 18 down below. So those of you who are interested in that can look at just page 18 there, so you have that convenient. EIDL, live venue operator grants. I think they were getting, a chunk of money there. So I guess that'd be good for like Live Nation. Mark Cuban will be happy. The EIDL grant, I did not see more money for the EIDL grant. And I did notice that the EIDL grant will be an opt-out, not an opt-in. So in other words, if you go apply for the EIDL loan, you'll have to opt out of the grant, and they're gonna clarify like, oh, you're denied for the loan, but you're approved for the grant. And they're trying to clean that mess up, which is kind of weird because I didn't see more money for the EIDL grant program. This was really interesting here. I like this one a lot. So the Main Street Lending Facility is now going to create 7-year loans instead of 5-year loans. And this is a big one. They're going to provide low-cost options to small businesses as well and remove the $250,000 loan minimum. So the last Main Street Lending Loan Program basically just said, hey, we'll give money to companies like Dave & Buster's who are struggling, or Marcus movie theaters and hotel chains, like these middle-sized businesses, not the Apples and Teslas, but the middle-sized businesses, up to like, I think it was 15,000 employees or 2 billion in revenue or 5 billion in revenue. They kept changing the number. But the point was, not enough businesses actually cared about the Main Street Lending Program. And so the Main Street Lending Program's kind of been a dud. And so this bill actually opens the floodgates for any of us to get these as low-cost loans. So it'll be interesting. We start getting some Main Street Lending Program loans to go buy some real estate. I should cross this out. We did see money for the post office, so I'm going to erase that right there. We didn't see anything for HEROES, though, or hazard pay. Now, remember, HEROES doesn't actually stand for HEROES, like when they say HEROES Act. It's like that omnibus economic stimulus, whatever. Congress has all these stupid acronyms. It's stupid. But it does feel like a little bit of a slap in the face because, again, they are still calling it the HEROES Act, the updated HEROES Act. Here's one that's going to piss off a lot of Republicans as well. Cannabis businesses to access banking and insurance. And they call cannabis businesses essential providers, essential services. So this is definitely sure to piss off some Republicans. Expect some contention on that. 120 billion for aid to restaurants, grants. This is straight up grant money for restaurants. That's crazy. Yeah, because I think we're expecting a ton of businesses to just be dead if they don't get more help. Earned income tax credit is going to get some kind of boosted amount. $3 billion in grants are going to minority-owned businesses. Whew! And there you have it. That is my complete summary. I am done for the day. I feel like I did a good job because by the time this video posts, this summary and bill has not been out for more than 3 hours, and I already got you the whole summary. So if that doesn't deserve a subscribe, I don't know what will, but I'm just gonna go have some Topo Chico and celebrate because I'm done for the day. Just make sure to get your life insurance, get your 2 free stocks with Webull, and folks, we'll see you in the next video. Oh yeah, and I got some courses down below too if you wanna learn how to make money in real estate stocks or on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.